We interrupt this program to bring you...
What?
Welcome home, Sidney. Preview of coming events.
Why don't you come for me? You got the balls for that?
Oh, poor Sidney. You think this is all about you? You think you're still the star?
This isn't a fucking movie!
It will be.
These are innocent people.
Spare me the lecture. You've done very well by all this bloodshed, haven't you? Well, how about the town you left behind? I've got plans for you. I'm gonna slit your eyelids in half so you don't blink when I stab you in the face. You'll die when I want you to, Sidney. Not a moment before. Until then, you're going to suffer.
Sidney?
Jill, stay right there. Do not look, okay?
She said you were the angel of death.
All right, everybody, my name is Kevin.
And I'm John.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Julie.
And we are the Real Movie Guys. It's October, ladies and gentlemen, so you know what that means. Real Terror Month. Real Terror Month is a special event where we take a look at all your favorite horror movies. This year, we're taking a look at the Scream series, and more specifically, this episode of The Real Review, we're watching Scream 4. 10 years have passed, and Sidney Prescott, who has put herself back together thanks in part to her writing, is visited by the Ghostface Killer. Welcome back, guys. It's been 11 years since the original, 10 years if you're looking at this movie. The last one came out in 2000, this came out in 2011. Scream is on a bit of a hiatus for a while, and I think we can all understand why after we talked about Scream 3. Scream 4 comes in a very interesting time period, I think, in horror movies. Around this time period, we saw the remake was a big thing. This movie actually goes out of its way to address a lot of the remakes that were made during this time period. Horror evolved. We got more of the gore hound, torture porn, as you will, with the Saw franchise. Just a lot more violent kills. Just really like these gritty remakes. And you know what? I gotta tell you, Scream 4 came out. I think it adapted itself very well to the landscape of horror. Had some really excellent commentary. And you know what? For a movie that I really didn't have much expectation into, I actually really enjoyed my time with Scream 4. I thought it was one of the better sequels, on par, maybe even slightly better than Scream 2 in some ways. I actually had a pretty decent time with this, and I can't wait to talk about it with you guys. So, Adam, let's start with you. I know you were a little disappointed with Scream 3. What'd you think going into this one?
Better. Definitely better.
Yeah.
I liked this one significantly more, actually.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like what I think we said in the last review, I
Right.
think that a remake, that's definitely like the next step for Scream to go. Like that makes so much sense.
Right.
I think it succeeded. I think it did well.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. I think they really took that idea
Right.
of the remake and they saw what the other movies were doing. They satirized it, which is what we want, right? We want them to not become the comedy, but make fun of the other horror movies and then evolve the genre. And I think they did very well in this movie. I think it really does
I agree.
succeed.
I agree.
Very cool, very cool. All right, John, how about you, man? What'd you think of this one?
I thought it was definitely better than the last one. Some things I didn't like about this one, but definitely better overall. And I feel like they almost had to do a remake of it because, I mean,
Everybody else was, right?
you don't want to go back to the crap that they were putting out, you know?
Right, and I
The
think
last one.
they do the remake in a good way where it feels like it's a sequel remake almost, and they do have a lot of commentary about it. But I think it's very well done, and we will talk about it. Julie, how about you? What'd you think of this one?
I had a good time with this one. It definitely modernized the Scream franchise. So it gave it, new characters and then just kind of a new energy. I love, even in the beginning, like everyone has like the Ghostface voice app on their phones. You know what I mean? So it's showing that it's in the modern era. And the twists were pretty good. I knew the one big twist because I have seen this movie before, but I couldn't remember. We got back to 2 killers, so I was very happy. So the whole time I'm like, who is the second killer? Is it this one, this one, this one? So there was definitely still an element of mystery. The kills were a lot better. I had a good time with this.
Yeah, I think we could start even just from that point right here. This movie really, really does a great job with its kills. There's just so many good kills, I think, throughout this whole movie. And we actually didn't even talk about our Real Terror Award, which we're going to talk about at the end of the episode. I just realized that now, but that's okay. We do this thing on the fly, ladies and gentlemen. But I think this movie just did a really, really great job with its kills. And it's something we kind of expected around this time. Again, the 2000s, we saw a lot of these more bloody, more gruesome, like torture porn-esque movies. I don't consider the Saw series a torture porn. I know a lot of critics and fans can see it in that genre. I don't necessarily do. I think there's actually a good enough story in Saw to where there's a reason for what kind of happens, but whole other conversation, whole other year. Stay tuned for next year for maybe that one. But yeah, Adam's like, no, count me out of that. I'm not even thinking about that one. But yeah, I think this movie really does capture that. What did you think, Adam, for this? Because I thought the kills were clever, they were strong, that they were bloody and gory. It's something that I feel like we haven't really even seen in the Scream series. Maybe a little bit in the first one was like some of the closer to the more violent kills.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like it's kind of a bad way to put this, but it felt like, they were maturing in,
right,
I guess, their kills in a way.
And what do you think about the tension? Because I feel like these more violent kills actually added a little more tension to the movie, in my opinion. Especially the first more gruesome kill where the one friend, I think it's Olivia, she's like dead on the bed and her like organs are hanging out and there's like blood all over the walls. I'm like, what the hell are we watching? This is not Scream that I know. And it kind of made it just more terrifying. I think Ghostface actually kind of went up a notch after kind of being almost a joke, I think, in the last movie. This one, he was
right.
He's a little scary
it modernized. Yeah, it modernizes it. It felt like.
Right, and I think it went in a very natural direction. It felt very natural. Nothing really felt forced with that. And like you said, the idea of this movie is more clever, I think, with what it's trying to do. In Scream 3, we had Randy was just mailed in a videotape, if you will, post-mortem about what a trilogy is supposed to be. In this movie, we have the AV Club or the Cinema Club, and they're talking about horror movies.
Club.
Yeah, excuse me, the Cinema Club. They're talking about horror movies and, what a remake is and how everything has to change. Like, the rules have to change, and they make a funny joke in there. It says, what, you can only survive a horror movie if you're gay or something like that. Like, that's like one of the new standards. And then one of the characters towards the end of the movie, like Ghostface is like stabbing him and trying to kill him, and he's like, I'm gay, if that means anything. And they have Ghostface just like kind of like turns that, just stabs him and kills him. Like that's fantastic. Like, again, they're doing a lot of things, and that's kind of the meta jokes I'm looking for. Julie, what did you think? I think this really captured the spirit of Scream 1 with those meta jokes by not including them in the movie, but also focusing on making a tight movie in and of itself.
Yeah, I liked that part. And then even the beginning of, it looks like it's your classic like Scream cold open, and then it's like, no, it's Stab 6. And then it shows Kristen Bell and Anna Paquin watching it, and then that ends up panning out to be like, it's the beginning of Stab 7. And then it goes into that, even the characters are doing it. It's like, well, how could the beginning of Stab 7 be Stab 6? Because then wouldn't the beginning of Stab 6 be Stab 5? So they're poking fun at themselves and like the Stab franchise that they created. So stuff like that was really good. And I have to say, I liked a decent amount of like the newer characters. Like Kirby was really fun. Like she had a lot of movie commentary, especially with horror and, the Cinema Club friends.
I will say Hayden Panettiere, I do like her a lot, and I think she's fun in this movie as Kirby. She just seems significantly older than all the other kids. Anybody else get like that vibe from watching her? Like, why is this like 30-year-old hanging out with like a bunch of like 20-year-old, like 18 to 20-year-olds?
I know, agreed.
No, but it wasn't bad. It's just a bad joke.
Yeah, and then even too, I just remember this too, the fact that like the whole town, I mean, the Cinema Club's hosting it, but they have the Stabathon. It just very much seems like, a lot of things, I feel like as millennials and stuff like that, like how we cope with trauma is we kind of make fun of it and like go into it. So like, all right, it's been over 10 years since the original Scream happened. Let's just have a Stabathon party and we all dress up as Ghostface and do this. And like,
right,
just showing how people handle things.
Right, and again, I think the Scream, this is something I really like about the Scream series when you look at them, and we see this going even further when we talk about some of the future films, and even in the beginning of the series, they really have their pulse, I feel like, on the future. Does anybody else kind of like notice that sometimes? Like this movie really predicted kind of the growth of like the World Wide Web. Pretty much the one guy who's like the nerdy guy, he's like streaming everything. We kind of do that now. He was kind of like doing like the early Twitch stream. He kind of predicted like, I'll be streaming, my life and my experiences and hanging out and just talking to people, vlogging, webcams, casting everything. This movie really kind of predicted that future of the internet being so integral to everything that we do. And I think that's fascinating. What do you think of that, John? Because I feel like, again, the internet was popular then, but it wasn't like it is now. And this movie seems entirely like it predicted it.
Yeah, they did a good job with predicting it. I felt like they also added more things to this movie where, like, more relatable things that we see now going a lot. Like even with just the texting. The one thing that I didn't like was so much it was the CGI that they added in.
That's a good point.
Like some of the things seem too CGI to me, where like it's not the best CGI that we have now,
Right.
but it was almost like one of those things where you see a horror movie and you know something's CGI and you're just like, all right, it didn't sit well.
Yeah,
but overall, I liked most of it.
It's funny you bring that up because this is probably one of my least favorite cosmetically. If you look at this movie, a lot of the knife scenes are actually CGI. The knife really isn't there in most of the scenes. The reason why, and I totally get it, Wes Craven just didn't want to deal with props, anyone getting stabbed or any of that. Like he just said, we have the technology, let's just CGI the knife. And you could see it blatantly in some scenes. During some of the stab scenes, you just literally see like the knife kind of like disappear as they just cut it out of the shot. And I get it. You know, it's not my favorite thing, but I get why they did it to some extent. Did anybody else notice like the weird like blur on the camera? I felt like someone like took a rag and like wiped the camera or something like that because the movie feels very blurry. Adam, any thoughts on what that choice was or what they were trying to go for? I didn't like that at all. It was really distracting actually at times.
I don't know. Maybe they were going for that whole found footage-esque vibe to it. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe, give it more realistic tone.
Yeah.
Like, let me grab this, dirty camera here and start filming.
Right.
Who knows?
And it's weird because it's like some of the lights are just like oversaturated in some scenes and just like it's really distracting. I guess almost dreamlike, but just I don't think that. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I don't know what Wes Craven was thinking. And rest in peace, Mr. Craven, because this was his last movie that he actually made before his passing. He passed around 3 or 4 years after this, and it was a good note to go out on. I think he did a great job. He kind of brought Scream back to the forefront. Unfortunately, this movie bombed in theaters, so that wasn't so great for the franchise. So there was a long hiatus after that. But let's talk about the Scream series in general here. So we've talked about the Scream formula exhaustively throughout this series, where they've done great things and they've done some terrible things in our opinion. But this movie, I think, really brings it back. It took the idea of what a remake horror movie is and made a really great mystery. I'm going to tell you guys, this is one of my favorite mysteries in a horror movie because I did not see that twist coming. And we're going to go into more details about it here. But Adam, as far as the Ghostface Killer / killers, did you have any idea of who the killers were or what was going to happen? 'Cause for me personally, I didn't. I really was actually surprised by this one.
Yeah, no, this one threw me for a loop. I was guessing the entire time, and I know they were putting in, like, especially with the I don't remember her name, but Dewey's, I guess.
Gail.
Yeah, that's it. At the one point when she kind of like just stepped out of the shadows and she's like, there you are.
Not Gail.
The deputy?
The deputy.
Yeah, the deputy. Yeah. That's it. Yes.
Yeah.
Where she stepped out of the shadows at that one point, I was like, maybe it is her. But it's like they throw you for a loop a lot of times. But no, I did not know until the very end there.
And then would you say, Adam, if you went back and watched this movie again, if you watched it a second time, would you see how this all came together? Because I think there's a significant amount of good breadcrumbs that lead you to this finale at this point. I really do think there are. I think they did a good job. It made sense. It really did.
Yeah, no, looking back on it, I was like, okay, you know what? This makes sense now.
Yeah, because we'll talk about it here. So the two killers end up being, what's his name? I can't even think of his name.
I know it's Rory Culkin as the actor.
Yeah,
I'm blanking on his character name.
So Rory Culkin ends up being one of the killers, which
He's
I thought
one of the cinema. Charlie Walker. So yeah, we'll stick with his character name here. So Charlie ends up being one of the killers, which I thought that was a great twist. Towards the end of the movie, they put him in a chair where he's duct taped to the chair like in the first movie. And again, this is what we're talking about when you do callbacks to original franchises and original movies. You do them well and you execute them just slightly differently to make them that more interesting. And this movie does that with he's tied up in the chair and you have Kirby like answering the questions for the horror movies, and they do that. One of my favorite lines in the movie, you've heard just reading off a bunch of remake horror movies. She goes out there to try and save him because at this point, these characters are supposed to be smarter, right? At this point, like she leaves Charlie out there like, oh, I can't let him in. Sidney says, don't let him in. He might be the killer. We don't know who he is. But, she goes with her heart. She goes with her gut. She goes out there to try to let him out. Finds out, boom, he stabs her.
find out he's actually one of the killers. And I thought that was a fantastic first twist for the movie, because I know they were trying to hint at the boyfriend, which that's who I kind of thought it was. I thought this movie was going to be a little bit more lame with that twist. I'm like, oh, it's going to be the one terrible acted boyfriend who's like barely in the movie. He's probably one of the most forgettable Scream characters I've ever seen. He's like not in this movie at all. So, but I thought it might be him, because again, I didn't know which way this was going. And then you come to
he always disappeared conveniently.
Right.
And like, where is he? You know?
Right. And then I didn't know what we were watching, so I wasn't sure if that was going to be the twist. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes with these Scream movies, sometimes they're on the nose, sometimes they're not. And this one I didn't expect. And his reasoning made sense. You know, he was trying to get, Kirby finally showed him affection after how many years of loving her from afar. And now, she's finally get the attention. And then you find out the biggest twist of this movie. Jill Roberts, played by Emma Roberts, who is Sidney's cousin, ends up being the other killer. And I was blown away by that reveal. I did not expect that. And I guess that's what a true remake really does when you watch this kind of series, is they're supposed to throw you something brand new and exciting. And it made perfect sense, and it was a wonderful twist. John, what do you think of that twist? I didn't expect it at all.
No, I didn't expect it either, but I thought it was an awesome thing. And I thought she also was seemed like a really good Ghostface killer too. It wasn't like she had the reasons behind it, the intentions, and it wasn't just like throw anybody in a Ghostface mask. It kind of made sense. But then like you were talking about her boyfriend too. Like he's like the basic wonder whatever white bread of the whole place.
Yeah,
he's a terrible character.
Yeah, I
feel like he can go on like one of the worst characters in a movie.
Yeah, I don't even know why he's in the movie. Honestly, it was kind of just random. I guess just like a red herring, if you will, for the movie. But Julie, what did you think of that review with Emma Roberts? I think it's a really good reveal, and it kind of adds a lot to the series, especially for reasoning from a standpoint.
Yes, I love it because her motive is, she's felt not shunned, but she felt like she was in the shadow of Sidney pretty much her entire life. And then she's seeing the amount of attention that Sidney gets after each of these encounters with Ghostface. And then coincidentally enough, the reason Sidney is back in Woodsboro is because she's promoting her book, So that's her main motivation for Jill is, I'll be the final girl, all of my own design. And, I'll get everything Sidney got. I'll get the fame, the attention, So she's really thriving off of it. And Kevin and I, as we were watching, we're like, kudos to her. She really beat the crap out of herself in those last few minutes to kind of, stage the fight with Ghostface. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, again, I really do think it is. And I think it's funny, even just the commentary about like the new generation maybe not wanting to work as hard as like the old generation. You can maybe make an idea there where it's like, I'll just have a tragedy happen to me and I'll become famous and everyone will love me and I'll get my 15 minutes of fame. It kind of makes perfect sense in a really sick, disgusting way. Adam, what did you think? We really didn't talk about you. What did you think of her actually being the killer?
I thought it was great. I thought it was really cool. I thought her motives were really dark, but that's what I needed, to further escalate this series, I think, is, gave me some more darker tones.
Right. And it really reinvigorates the franchise. And then after that scene, what do you think of what followed? Because that's something I think I expected even less. Because usually once we find out who the killer is, who Ghostface is, the movie kind of ends and it wraps up. And we get a really brilliant scene of she setting up the crime scene, which I think is really fun. I had a really good time with her just setting up the crime scene, like wiping the knife, wiping the gun, moving the bodies around, laying her body down. And then she wakes up in the hospital. She thought she killed Sidney, finds out that Sidney isn't actually dead. Then she goes to kill her. What did you think of that finale, Adam? I thought that was really exciting and something we haven't seen from the Scream series at that point.
Right. I think it added another layer of intensity to the whole thing. Because at that point, every other movie, they just kind of end right after, this situation happens. But then we're taking it a step further. Right. I thought it was great. It was very entertaining to watch.
It was a very good escalation. I was curious on how they were going to do that. What did you think, Julie?
I just loved even, she's waking up and Dewey's the one by her bedside. And she's thinking, I did it. And
her
like,
face.
Who are you?
That's some acting right there.
Yeah, and I don't know who brings it up, but Dewey eventually he's like, Sidney, she's in the ICU. It's not looking good, but she might just pull through. And then you see Jill's face, and she's like, fuck.
Yeah,
I
it's
still
literally
gotta
like,
take care of some loose ends here.
yeah, that was literally like
But
a
even
fucking
like Dewey's delivery, you could tell that, he knows he's helping put, the final pieces in place to kind of expose her and, get her just desserts.
Well, I like that because she goes to Gail and they're talking about stab wounds. She's like, oh, she said she was stabbed in the shoulder like you guys can write a book together. And then like it takes a hot second. They're like, hey, how'd she know I was stabbed in the shoulder? We didn't tell anybody. Oh my God. And then he like runs into the other room. Again, really good stuff. Really great stuff. And the final line, and I think, John, you agree with that. The remakes are never as good as the originals. I thought that was a fantastic line to end on this movie. And it really does add to it, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like that last final kind of kill to Ghostface was like a better way for Ghostface to go out than like how they'd done it in the original ones.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think Ghostface really, and ironically, I feel like Ghostface this is probably his most appearances in a movie. This was definitely the highest body count in any of the Scream movies. I think there was about 14 or so kills, if I counted right, around there. So this is probably the most people that have died in a Scream movie, and I think this is also the most times we've had Ghostface kind of intermingle with the cast. I think we got a lot of his like this dialogue, like enticing people, chasing after people, and I think that's going to bring us to the Real Terror Award. Real Terror Award is a special award that we give to our favorite kill of the movie. And, I'm taking the top on this one. There was a lot of really good kills in this movie. We talked about the Olivia kill, the one friend being strawn out on the bed with her organs hanging out and being blood all over the walls. But the one that really stands out to me, and I think it's because it's the most disturbing out of all the kills in the movie, Anthony Anderson, who is a famous actor. You've seen him in a lot of shows. He's sitting in the police car. He's a cop and he's on watch at Sidney Prescott's house, and he gets stabbed in the head with a knife, and he like kind of wanders out of the car, right? He's like wandering and he's like, oh my God, because they just had a conversation, which again, that's really funny too. Him and Adrian Brody have a conversation about cops and movies and how, they always die early, unless you're Bruce Willis. If you're Bruce Willis, you survive. Or if you're
the cops on watch always die.
Yeah, if you're on 1 day from or if you're 1 day from retirement, you're gonna die. Like that's what that means essentially. But yeah, he gets stabbed in the head and he wanders out and he just goes, "Fuck Bruce Willis," and he falls down on the ground and dies. The funny part is that I think this was Wes Craven actually researched this kill a little bit. Apparently this is something that did happen in real life. Not the like "fuck you Bruce Willis" part, but someone was stabbed in the head. They were actually able to live for a little bit and then they actually died. So this was actually a based on reality kill. And that's a lot of what we expect, I think, from this movie. This movie really just turns up a lot of the kills. Adam, did you have any other favorite kills in this movie? That was definitely the one that like stood out to me, I think, the most.
No, that was the one that I was going to say too. It just the insertion point is like, ugh, gross. No, that was the one that stood out to me though.
Right, and I think it had the right amount of scream charm. Right, I think it was
right.
It was funny, but it was also like horrific at the same time, and I think that's a good balance. I think that's what Scream really needs to stick with.
Exactly. No, that's perfect. Yeah, it's like that's exactly what I expect from Scream at this point.
Yeah. How about you, John? Did you have any other kills that you really liked in this movie that stood out to you?
No, I definitely liked that one. I think it was like the second opening when the two blonde girls are just sitting there, and the other one just stabs her like twice.
Yeah, for
I thought
talking
that was
during the
like
movie.
An interesting way, like to just be like, hey, this Scream's gonna be a little bit different than the ones that you've seen before.
Right, and then they're having
because
fun.
It's kind of just like, screw you, lady.
Yeah, and I feel like, again, they're just having a really good time, and that's what Scream is about to me. If you're having a good time showing me these movies, and the audience is going to enjoy the same. I really think that was an excellent like showing of what we were to expect or not expect. Subvert your expectations. Julie, how about you? Did you have any other like favorite kills you liked in the movie? Quite a few.
Yeah. I liked the one other opening kill. I don't remember the girl's name, but it was, one of the first kills of the movie.
The girl from Pretty Little Liars? Is that the girl?
No, like the true opening of the movie after, the fake stab intros, and the girl's being chased throughout the house by Ghostface into like some weird extension area where it's like an attic and then a basement. Yeah. No, that's not the girl from Pretty Little Liars.
Oh, I thought it was. No.
No, she's in the fake opening.
Oh.
And then she ends up, I think she got stabbed in the back. It was like a stab and then a drag down. And then she's in the garage. And then we get like a little callback to the Tatum kill where the garage door kind of you hear some cracking.
Yeah, you hear some cracking. I don't know. Her back was definitely broken, I think, or something.
Yeah. And then Ghostface, drags her back in and does the final, couple stabs. So I liked the Tatum callback. I liked the chase throughout the house. So I thought that was a fun opening kill.
Yeah, this movie just had a lot of fun with the kills. And, maybe some people don't like that. I don't know why you're watching a horror movie if you don't like that, especially a slasher, because this is kind of what I look for. Again, like Adam said, it seems kind of sick, but this is I feel like the most mature out of the Scream franchise so far. It really feels like it set the standard on why Ghostface should be like a scary character. Like, yeah, you can have fun with him and you can have fun with the reveals and the poking fun of, but this feels just like the truest reform back to Scream, and I just had a really good time. So with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's put a big score on this one. I'm going to give Scream 4 a 9.3 out of 10.
Name the remake of the groundbreaking horror movie in which the villain...
Halloween, Texas Chainsaw, Dawn of the Dead, The Hills Have Eyes, Amityville Horror, Last House on the Left, Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street, My Bloody Valentine, When a Stranger Calls, Prom Night, Black Christmas, House of Wax, The Fog, Piranha. It's one of those, right? Right?
I had a really good time with this one, guys. I was pleasantly surprised with what I was given here, and it's really a shame that this movie bombed so terribly in the box office that we didn't see Scream for quite a long time after this, because I think this movie's fantastic. I think it has everything I look for in a horror movie. Are there some Scream issues? Obviously, all the movies in Scream have some kind of issues, but nothing that really stood out to me that was really terrible. There's a couple logic things here and there, but overall, a great, intriguing mystery with a wonderful twist, some smart dialogue referencing everything I loved and hated about that 2010, 2011 horror movie craze that we had going on with reboots, just blatantly making fun of them, but again, showing us what a remake could be and what it should be and how it honors the original, but also makes something new by adding some new rules, and it does everything I like, and I had a really, really good time with Scream 4, and it comes highly recommended. Even if you just watch Scream 1, you can probably jump right into Scream 4 without really missing much. I think there's a lot there, and it's a really good time. I think as of right now, I think it's the best of the sequels. We'll see if that changes once we take a look at 5 and 6, but right now, it's my favorite sequel. I had a really good time with this. Adam, how about you? What'd you think of this one?
I'm going to give Scream 4 a 9 out of 10.
Any comment on the fact that these killings seem to resemble the pattern of the original Woodsboro murders?
Pardon?
Later.
As I was saying, my officers are hard at work, and we just want the community to know that we are very close to bringing this whole situation under control.
I agree. I think this is a fantastic sequel. In comparison to everything else that we've gotten so far, this one it felt like the best next step for the series. And I really like this one. I thought it was good, held my attention. I didn't know who the real killer was until the very end, which was fantastic. I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was good.
Yeah, again, there's so many good things about this movie. I think the extra cast was decently done. Maybe not all of them were memorable, but we got a fantastic character out of Kirby who, her fate is interesting. It's not really mentioned, kind of mentioned in the movie, kind of not, but we'll see. I'll take a look at her a little bit later down the line, maybe. But very fun movie. Again, just a really good time. I agree, Adam. Great score there. John, how about you, man? What did you think of this one?
I'll give this one a solid 8.
Don't you get it? This has never been about killing you. It's about becoming you. I mean, for fuck's sake, my own mother had to die. No great loss there, so I could stay true to the original. It's sick, right? Well, sick is the new sane.
Not as high on it as you guys.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say this is definitely one of the ones that you don't watch, but I'd say this one's maybe third, I think.
Okay, so what would you rank them right now? 1, 2, 4?
I think I'd go 1, 2, 4. A couple other ones that we're gonna watch.
Then 3.
Throw down 3 a long time after this one, and then we'll go.
Yeah.
I'll throw 3 in the waste basket.
What do you think they could have improved on? That you're in the 8 range. What do you think was one of the something?
I think the CGI with the knives disappearing kind of started getting to me a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, there's just some things that and then you were even saying too, with the camera lens, it looked like they hired somebody out of high school to start doing the photography, and kind of suffers. But no,
Yeah.
Definitely a decent movie.
No, I mean, you bring up valid points. I think some people will be turned off by the CG if you notice it. I mean, you're not going to notice it every time, but when it's there, it's there. You know, you're going to just have to kind of acknowledge that it's a thing. And maybe it's a commentary on that 2010, 2011 CGI craze that we had. You know, it could just be that too. More so, I think it was just Wes Craven being like, nah, knives are just a pain in the ass. Let's just not deal with that. Because one of the actors actually got injured in Scream 3, I think it was. The killer in Scream 3, when he got stabbed in the back. He actually got stabbed with the ice pick when Sidney stabbed him, and I think that kind of turned him off to using practical things if he could in a movie, as I wouldn't want to be stabbed by an ice pick either, to be honest, but totally get it.
Yeah, they said the scream was real.
Yeah,
the scream that he cries out.
Yeah, that guttural scream was real, and you know, as much as we love stuff like that when it happens in movies, we try to avoid it, I think, at all costs. But Julie, why don't you wrap it up for us? What do you think?
I'm going to be giving Scream 4 a 9 out of 10.
You can't, there's rules. I'm gay. I mean, if it helps.
I think it's exactly what the franchise is needed to be, you know, modern, but still keeping, you know, true to the original spirit of Scream. So it definitely brought it into the modern era with some great callbacks, great kills, and again, another great mystery of who is the killer or killers.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes bringing your series back to its roots is the best thing you can do. And, you know, and like Adam said, like kind of a remake was the next natural thing. We saw the origin, we saw the sequel, we saw the end of the trilogy. Where do you go from there? You remake it and you kind of do it all over again. And this movie really goes back to basics, but also evolves the concept, I think, even a little bit further. I truly do believe Scream is at its strongest when we see big gaps in between movies. If you really look at it, like if you see like we made Scream 1 and then Scream 2 and 3 are fine, but Scream 4 ends up being so strong because I think the horror genre evolves every 10, 11, 12 years, whatever it may be, just like movies do in general. And Scream, when it has something to sink its teeth into as far as comedy and what's evolved and what's changed, I think there's a lot there, because Scream isn't just a horror movie. It's a mystery, it's a comedy, it's a commentary on everything that we love about the genre for all these horror fans out there. And again, when it has some kind of material to use and something to say, I think that's when these films are at their strongest. Again, not to say 2 and 3 aren't fine in their own right, but 1 and 4 so far seem to be the strongest because they have so much to say about the state of the horror genre and what they're working on. But let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Did you enjoy Scream 4 as much as us? I know it has its detractors. It has some people that love it or hate it. Most Scream fans, I think, tend to like it. Some of the critics, not so much. Let me know what you think about Wes Craven's last movie, because, you know, if this was one to go out on, I think he did a fantastic job, and I really enjoyed it and comes highly recommended. But again, thank you guys all so much for joining us for this episode of The Real Review. My name's Kevin. That's Adam, John, Julie. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. I'll catch you guys next time.
If you guys like what you've seen here today, consider giving this video a like and leaving your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with everything Real Movie Guys related, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't forget, all you audio listeners at home, we are available on many podcasting platforms. Just search The Real Movie Guys, you should pop right up. Thank you again all so much for joining us on this episode of The Real Review. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you next time.